On today's show, the Cavs need to start building the proper habits. And in order to do that, I think there are a few guys that need to be on the floors a little bit more for Cleveland. I'll tell you who those guys are and why I think the month of December, it might be the most important one of the season for the Cavaliers. We'll talk about that on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi, everybody. My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot. And you're listening to another edition of Locked On Cavs, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. You can find this show and any other Locked On podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. That means Apple, that means Spotify, that means any other podcast platform. We are also on YouTube, so if you are making this your first watch of the day, please do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us. And today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, that is LOCKEDONNBA, for $20 off your first purchase. The Cleveland Cavaliers need to take advantage of what I think is a good schedule this month. They need to build the proper habits. I want to talk about what this month means coming up, why I think December is arguably the most important month on the calendar for where this team is at right now. We will get into some injury updates heading into tonight's game against Portland, but I wanted to start with the habit building process that the Cavs need to go through, because I do think it's evident right now, and it was evident on Monday, and it was very evident after Sunday's game against Boston, that the Cavs need to start doing things the right way. And by the right way, I mean, I think the hustle needs to be at a higher level. I think the focus needs to be better. I think overall the Cavs need to play a brand of basketball that is less predicated on the talent they have and maybe features a little bit of a higher motor than what we have seen from them. A little bit less of a, they will win because of their talent versus their talent is going to help, but other things are going to help them too. And I think that the first month and a half of the season has been too much reliance on talent and allowing themselves to fall into bad habits. And that's why I think it's very important. 3 guys in particular get more minutes, or at least significant parts of the rotation, even if and when the Cavs get fully healthy. And I understand that because of where the Cavs are injury-wise, and like I said, we will talk about that coming up a little bit later. I understand that because they are shorthanded, these guys are going to play anyways, but I think we are at the point now where I have seen enough with 3 guys that if and when the Cavs ever do get fully healthy, they need to be rotation members. And the first guy that needs to be talked about here is Jaylon Tyson. And Tyson had a fantastic game on Monday night against the Indiana Pacers. He had 27 points. He had 11 rebounds, was 10 of 13 from the floor, 4 of 5 from beyond the arc. Like, he did everything. And what I think is important about him is that he did everything. And he's not going to be a perfect player. And he's still a young player that I think at times is finding his way. And he's still certainly learning on the job, which I do believe is to very much be expected as a second-year player, right? Like, guys that are in, especially with where he's drafted, it's not like we're talking about Jaylon Tyson that was a lottery pick or a top 5 pick. He was picked 20th overall, and for all intents and purposes, had a redshirt season last year. He did not play real rotation minutes. Most of the minutes he played last year were inconsequential to the success of the team. And I look at that and say, so basically he is kind of a rookie. He's not a rookie in the sense that he's learning everything for the first time because he's been through a season, but these are his first real minutes and real opportunities. And so far, Tyson has been awesome for the Cavs. I thought going into the season that the best case scenario for him this year would be that when Max Strus gets back from his foot injury, that Kenny Atkinson has to maybe try and find a way to get Jaylon Tyson a few minutes here or there. And that, to me, is so far in the rearview mirror with how well Jaylon Tyson has played. Like, it has gone from a, hey, this could be a tough decision type of thing, which is what, again, I sort of thought that goal would be, to, no, Jaylon Tyson is a rotation player. And that might mean other guys lose minutes, but Jaylon Tyson, and he's not going to play 30 minutes a night, and that's fine. He doesn't need to be a 30-minute-a-night guy when the Cavs are fully healthy. But Jaylon Tyson needs to be a rotation player. I think that much we have learned in the first quarter of the season, That much is evident. That much I am very confident in saying. And it's not just because he went out and had a good game against the Indiana Pacers. We've seen him have plenty of good games, I think, so far this year. He's shooting 48% from beyond the arc, which I think surpassed even the most optimistic Jaylon Tyson stockholder this year. Like, no matter what you thought of Jaylon Tyson, unless you are Jaylon Tyson or Jaylon Tyson's family, I don't think anyone thought that he was going to shoot 48% on three. I don't think Jaylon Tyson thought that he was going to shoot 48% from three. I don't think his family, I don't think his brother playing wide receiver at Arizona State, I don't think anybody in the world thought Jaylon Tyson was going to shoot 48% from three. I thought that if he shot around 35, 36%, that'd be a really good place to be. And now it's like, if he's under 40, I feel like that's a disappointment because of the standard that he has set for himself with his play through the first 20 some odd games of the season, 21 games of the season. And I know that he missed 5 of them because of the concussion. But it's also, to me, the fact that he has built up enough confidence to say what he said after the game on Sunday. And if you miss those comments, I don't want to read them verbatim again. I did that on Monday's episode. You can go back and listen if you really want to hear them. But basically, he said the team is in cruise control. The team is not playing hungry enough. They're not doing the right things. And those words needed to be said, right? I think everybody needed to hear those words. And I do think that everyone inside that locker room knew Jaylon was right. But I think when those words are voiced, when it's something that you actually hear as opposed to think, it hits harder. And I think it had an impact in that locker room. And I think that he has taken on a bit of a leadership role. Not to say that he's going to be the voice of this team, because that is going to be Donovan Mitchell. Like, this is going to be Donovan Mitchell's team, I think, as long as Donovan Mitchell is in Cleveland, and I would expect that to be for a long time. I don't think he's leaving anytime soon. I think it's going to be his team. But I think Jaylon Tyson has earned respect in that locker room. I think he's earned a lot of trust in that locker room. And that, I think, when you pair that with how well he has played, he needs to be in the rotation. Because I do think, too, if Jaylon keeps this up, and I see, like, the shooting percentage, I think will come down. Like, I don't think he's a 48% shooter. But if he keeps this up, you cannot take him out of the rotation. He has to be somebody playing 20 minutes a night. Because if you take him out of the rotation, if he's playing this well for guys that maybe aren't playing as well, then I think it becomes, well, if you really earn it, but it doesn't matter. What good does that do? Like, it sends the wrong message. And to be clear, I would not anticipate that to happen. So I do think that Jaylon is going to be a fixture in this rotation. And I think for the Cavs to not only abide by the proper habits and send the right messages, I think it's a necessary thing for him to do it. And I think ultimately, if and when this team is ever fully healthy, there's room for him, DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, maybe Dean Wade, who has not had a very good start to the season, shooting under 30% from three. Maybe he gets some of his minutes cut and the Cavs play a little bit smaller because of it. Like, maybe that's part of it too. But there needs to be room for Jaylon Tyson in the rotation, sort of no matter what happens moving forward, because he's been that good. The other guy, one of the other two guys that I wanted to talk about, Craig Porter Jr. And thought Craig had a solid game against the Indiana Pacers. And I don't know that his box score is necessarily something that's going to, like, just stand out fairly often. But I think that he brings something to the table, or maybe a couple of things to the table that few other guys in that position bring. And Craig, I think, is an okay defender. The fact that he is a good shot blocker for his size, a great shot blocker for his size, is a plus. I think he's a very good rebounder for his size. I think he had 3 offensive rebounds against the Pacers the other night. The fact that he plays the game the right way, I think, is a very important thing. And we have seen him create these opportunities, right? I don't remember what game it was, but he had a steal in a backcourt. And I think it was the Memphis game. And it just felt like it totally flipped things. And Craig Porter Jr. has had a handful of those plays over the course of this season. And I think that, to me, sort of embodies who he is. And he's done, I think, this year, all of the little things that I don't know that he was doing last year. And that, to me, really does signify the growth that he has made as a basketball player so far, is that he's doing things that he wasn't doing last year. He's not trying to be somebody he's not. He is, to me, really taken a step as a role player. Like, I don't know how much better at basketball Craig Porter Jr. is right now than he was a year ago. I don't know that he's necessarily better as a shooter or that he's a better passer. I do think he's in better shape, and that certainly helps. But I look at it and just say he fits in so much better because the things he's doing are different. And they're different in ways that help the Cavs, and they're different in ways that the Cavs need. And right now, when I think about Craig's role, I look at Lonzo Ball's role, because right now, when the Cavs are fully healthy, there are only so many point guard minutes to go around. You would imagine at some point Darius Garland will be able to play 32, 33, 34, 35 minutes in the game. So that means there's just not a ton of opportunity there. But the thing that I think, and Lonzo maybe is more of a wing and less of a guard. So like maybe this makes sense in some other areas, but I do think that there's overlap because of how frequently they have the basketball in their hands. But to me, what really stands out about Craig and what the Cavs have really missed from last year, and I can't sit here and say they missed Ty Jerome and they should have operated differently, because Ty Jerome has played 0 minutes this year for the Memphis Grizzlies, and nobody knows when he is going to play because of a calf injury, which is a total bummer. But like, there's no reason that would have been any different in Cleveland. So I can't say that they screwed that up. And when Sam has been healthy, he's been very, very good too. But the Cavs miss, not only without Ty, but Karis LeVert leaving too via trade for DeAndre Hunter. The Cavs missed the amount of rim pressure they were able to put on defenses in the first half of last year. And the thing that really stands out to me about Craig, when you're comparing him to Lonzo Ball, is how much more frequently Craig is able to get to the rim. So this season, Craig Porter Jr. in the restricted area is 17 of 22, and he is 28 of 48 overall in the paint. Obviously, Craig, not a big guy. Those, I think, are pretty good numbers. Lonzo Ball, he is 5 of 9 this year in the restricted area and 6 of 13 in the paint for the season. So he is getting into the paint and attempting shots so much less frequently than Craig Porter Jr. And that is, I think, one of the biggest reasons why the Cavs offense has not been very good when Lonzo has been on the floor. It's not to say he doesn't do good things, because I do think he still has been an impactful player. But I look at this and say the Cavs offense is missing something when he's on the floor, and it's pressure on the rim. That is the one thing I thought Lonzo would be able to do, not just a little bit better, but a lot better than he has for this team. Craig Porter Jr. has done it, and I think that's why the Cavs have looked like a better team with CPJ on the floor compared to Lonzo Ball on the floor. So maybe at a certain point, there's going to, and Lonzo's going to be in and out of the lineups because they're not going to play him on back-to-back. They're going to want to monitor his minutes and all that stuff. But I do think that makes it difficult to try and get him fit in with the system that they want to play. And I also think it means maybe at a certain point, you just have to admit Craig Porter Jr. might be a better fit for what this team needs in that particular position, especially with where they're at right now. Now, there's one more guy that we need to talk about. It's Nae'Qwan Tomlin. I have some numbers that are going to blow your mind, so we'll do that next. Plus, I will tell you why I think December could be the most important month of the season for the Cavs right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show, brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, biggest World Cup ever. It's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets, usually the hardest part, right? Those big events, and the World Cup is going to be a huge event. It's tough to get in the door sometimes. Well, that's why the Game Time app is clutch, because it's finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment that they hit the app. Puts the power back in your hands. It makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible, right? Maybe it's a bucket list type of event for you that you need to be at. And truthfully, if you look at it, you don't know that you'll ever be able to go again. This might be your one opportunity, and Game Time can make it so much easier. So here's what you need to do. Pull up the app. Layout's going to make it so simple to scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. You can pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for the fine print either. What you're going to see is what you're going to get. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, that is LOCKEDON NBA, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, game time. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked on Cavs your first listen. Thank you to those of you that make the show your first listen every single day. The other member of the Cavs that I do think we're at the point now needs to be in the rotation if and when they ever get fully healthy is Nae'Qwan Tomlin. And Tomlin has been, I think, a revelation this year. And he is still an extremely raw basketball player. Everybody, I think, at this point knows the story that he didn't play organized basketball growing up. He didn't play on a real basketball team until he got to community college. And now he finds himself as a two-way contract in the NBA, which is such a cool success story, right? Like that is one of the things that you just think about. It's like, man, that guy making, it's almost out of a movie, right? Like it's, and even I think to an extent, you can look at it and say, I'm not sure that the movie makers would buy this script because that's how rare the Nae'Qwan Tomlin story is. But so far this season, Tomlin, I think, has had a very big impact on this team. And his motor does not turn off. His arms seemingly go on forever. And yeah, there are things he needs to clean up. Is he always in the right place defensively? No. Is he a great three-point shooter at this point? No. But when Nae'Qwan Tomlin is on the floor, it seems like good things tend to happen for the Cavs. And sometimes I look at certain stats and say, I don't know that tells the story, right? And the one stat that I look at in particular with that in mind is plus minus on a regular basis. You've heard me, if you listen to the show, you have heard me mention plus minus. And what do I say about it? It doesn't always tell the full story, but sometimes it does. Like, for instance, pulling up the box score here from the game between the Cavs and the Celtics on Sunday, DeAndre Hunter was a minus 31 in that game, and it felt like he was a minus 31 in that game. Well, in that game, Nae'Qwan Tomlin was a plus 19. Yeah, and it felt like Nae'Qwan Tomlin was a plus 19. And so far this season, Nae'Qwan Tomlin has played 222 minutes for the Cavaliers, which is the 12th most minutes of anybody on the team. In those 222 minutes, the Cavaliers have outscored their opponents by 67 points. That is the fourth best plus minus on the Cavs. That's only behind Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. Those are the only guys this year, and they have played far more minutes than Nae'Qwan Tomlin. Like, that is also something to keep in mind. Evan Mobley has played 716 minutes. Donovan Mitchell has played 686 minutes. And yes, they have a higher plus minus and they've been out there more. Jared Allen has played 392 minutes. So those guys conceivably can have a higher plus minus. But in those 222 minutes, the Cavs have outscored opponents by 67 points. And it feels like it. It feels like the Cavs have been a better basketball team when Nae'Qwan Tomlin has been on the floor. He has, of any rotation player, because right now with where the Cavs are at in terms of their health, with who is available, and the fact that, and Monday night, I understand that 5 rotation players were out on Monday, but Nae'Qwan Tomlin was, I believe, the first guy off the bench. And he's going to be, I think, in the rotation for the foreseeable future. When you think about Max not coming back until probably January, Larry Nance is going to be out for a few weeks at the very least. Nae'Qwan Tomlin is going to be in the rotation, I think, probably through the end of this year, no matter what happens. But I also think that even when Larry comes back, I think Nae'Qwan has been a better basketball player than Larry Nance. And I say that as somebody who thought Larry Nance was going to be a big help to this team prior to the season. I think he's been a better basketball player this year than Dean Wade. I think that some of Dean's minutes might need to, like I said, go to Jaylon. Some of them might need to go to Nae'Qwan. Like, these guys, I think, have proven that they are NBA players and that the Cavs are better with them on the floor. And that is something that should matter. If you want to build the proper habits, which the Cavs have kind of pivoted talking about this week, I think you kind of have to go with the guys that have done those things, right? Like the guys that have been focused, the guys that have been locked in, the guys that have had high motors, the guys that have done the little things well, because if you take care of the little things, the big things will take care of themselves. Those are these 3 guys that I've talked about. And yeah, there might be some rough moments, but there's not going to be rough moments in terms of effort. And ultimately, I think the Cavs are better when they're like that. The secret to the Cavs last year was, yeah, they could make shots, but they made teams work. And right now, I don't think they're making teams work enough. And I think that these 3 guys in particular really do make teams work really hard. And I think that is an important thing to think about. And if you look at what Nae'Qwan Tomlin has done, is he a perfect basketball player? No, but he is somebody that I have zero doubts now is an actual NBA player. He's on a two-way, but I'd be stunned if he's not on an NBA contract in 2.5 months, because you only get, I believe it is 50 games that you're allowed to be active on a two-way. And so far this year, Nae'Qwan Tomlin has, let me pull it up here. He has played in 13 games, and I believe he's been active for a few more. So it's not as if he's got unlimited time. He'll be on an NBA contract. If the Cavs are able to get him on a contract that looks similar to the one that Craig Porter Jr. is on right now, I think they'll feel really, really good about it. I would anticipate that's what they're going to try and do. I don't know if that'll happen, but that's the way that I would certainly go if I were the Cavs. And I think that is the way that their history says they will go, because Dean Wade got a similar contract. Sam Merrill got a similar contract. Like, that is kind of what they do. And those guys are all of that ilk, if you will. I know not the same skill set, but I know Sam was drafted 60th overall by the Bucks back when, but the developmental story that's on a 10-day contract or a two-way contract, and their real contract is kind of that one that is very team friendly. So I'd imagine they're going to try and get Nae'Qwan Tomlin on that type of deal at a certain point, but they have talked about him being somebody that can help them in the playoffs. And so far, all I've seen is things that make me agree with that. And I think December is a very, very important month. I want to go through the schedule a little bit, and I want to talk about why I think this month being a good one for the Cavs is vital to their success. We'll do that next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now can actually take part live in a market that's powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app today to begin. Thank you for making Locked On Cavs today your first watch. You can find us on YouTube. If you are watching right now, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here at Locked On Cavs. And this month is a very important one for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The month of December, I think the schedule to the Cavs is very kind. They are back in action tonight as they take on the Portland Trail Blazers. Blazers are on the second night of a back-to-back. They played in Toronto last night. I'm recording this as the Blazers are playing right now. It's halftime when I started recording. I don't know if they win or lose. Then they play the San Antonio Spurs, who will not have Victor Wembanyama, probably will not have Stephon Castle. Then they play the Golden State Warriors, who might not have Steph Curry. And then they get a week off, which I have talked about, I think is a very important week. After that, they play in Washington. They play against Charlotte. They play in Chicago. They play against Chicago. They play against Charlotte. They play against New Orleans. Those games. So that stretch of, 6 games between Washington and New Orleans, I think those are 6 games against, I guess, only technically 4 different really bad teams. I don't think the Bulls are good. I don't think the Hornets are good. The Wizards, I think, are the worst team in basketball, and the Pelicans are not far behind them. Like, the Cavs have an opportunity, I think, and it starts this week, and I think it started on Monday. But they have an opportunity to really build momentum and really reset the culture of this season. And I don't think that they have like some bad locker room culture or anything like that. And I think that this group kind of let a losing streak get away from them a little bit. And I talked after the Toronto game, given who was out and given the fact that it was the second night of a back-to-back for them, I thought that was excusable. And I still think that loss specifically, that one specific loss, I still think is excusable. The Atlanta one wasn't. The Boston one wasn't. And the fact that the Cavs allowed those things to stack on top of each other, I think is a wake-up call, and I think it needed to be a wake-up call. And I think we saw that on Monday night, that they realized where they're at, and they need to turn it on a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised, like, if the Cavs go through another bit of a lull later on in the season, and that'll be fine when that happens. But what the Cavs have not done, what this Cavs team has not done, because last year's Cavs team did this all the time, they have not shown what they're capable of. We knew right away last year just exactly what the group was capable of because they won 15 straight games. And it's not just that they won 15 straight games, because it's not like there were a couple of close games in there, but they were wrecking teams. So far this year, even in their wins, they're not doing that. The game against the Clippers, okay, they controlled that one. The game against Philly, they controlled that one. Washington, who again is terrible, they control that. But like, they have one win that I look at and say, you know what? That was an impressive win. And that was when they beat Detroit all the way back on October 27th. And I'm not going to try and sit here and tell you that if the Cavs beat the Blazers tonight, it's going to be some impressive win. I'm not going to tell you that if they command the game against San Antonio without Victor Wembanyama on Friday, that it's some impressive win. And the same thing goes for Golden State if they don't have Steph Curry. If they do have Steph Curry, it might be a little bit different. But if they don't have Steph Curry, whatever. Washington, like I said, Charlotte, Chicago, Charlotte, New Orleans. None of those games are going to be about the opponents the Cavs are playing. This month, to me, is all about who the Cavs are, not about who they're playing. It is about, what do the Cavs do? What do the Cavs look like? How do the Cavs operate? What is their style of play? Are they the team that is playing with more force? Because that, to me, has been the most inconsistent part of their season. And this is a real opportunity against some bad teams for the most part. I think this stretch is the most favorable part of their schedule, not only because they have some bad teams on here, but also because they've got some rest on here. And I think that they have, next week in particular, an opportunity to work things out. The fact that they got home very early Tuesday morning from Indianapolis, and they don't go on the road again until they'll fly to Washington on December 11th. That's a really good thing. That's a big opportunity for them. And they can either take advantage of this opportunity, and I don't want to say turn their season around, because yes, they've underachieved, but they're not 9-13. They are 13-9. And I think sometimes because of the expectations, we tend to talk about them like they're 9-13 because they have underachieved. But I think that they have the opportunity now to really change the way we look at them. And again, we're not going to crown them if they go through the stretch and take care of business. But I think if they go through the stretch and take care of business and head into the game on Christmas Day in New York, because I look at that and say, while maybe they don't go undefeated through then, they're going to be favored in every game significantly until then. But the Cavs should be able to go to New York City on Christmas Day feeling really, really good about themselves. And I think it's an important thing that happens. And that's why I think this month is the most important. And the other thing too, I don't necessarily love looking at the standings this early in the season, but the Cavs right now, who are still the betting favorites on FanDuel to win the Eastern Conference, are not where you would anticipate them being in the standings. And unfortunately, okay, there we go. So right now the Cavs are in 6th in the Eastern Conference, and they are only a game and a half behind second place. As I'm recording this, the Knicks are taking on the Celtics right now, so this can change. But they are a game and a half behind second place. Like, that's not far. The fact that they're in 6th is a little misleading because the Knicks are 13-6. Miami is 14-7. Toronto is 14-7. Orlando is 13-8. They're 13-9. Atlanta's 13-9. So it's all of these teams bunched up a few games behind Detroit. And it's not like Detroit 4.5 games ahead of Cleveland right now is some insurmountable deficit they can't get past. But I do think that they need to, at the very least, start to cement themselves as no, this is our conference. Like, this conference this year should run through Cleveland. And they've not done that. And I think that this month in particular, I look at it as to say, it's time for the Cavs to put their foot down, to do things the right way, to get back to playing Cavs basketball. The schedule presents them that opportunity to do so. And I think it's one that they need to take advantage of, because if they do this, then I think it's really easy for them to start feeling good about themselves and carry those things over into a tougher January and into the rest of the season when the Cavs should start to look like championship contenders. If they don't do this, then I think that's when it starts to be fair about worrying about what the rest of the regular season and ultimately what this team's ceiling could be. Wanted to get a couple of injury updates there too. So, because I did not have time on yesterday's podcast. Prior to the game against Indiana on Monday night, Kenny Atkinson talked about Sam Merrill, said Sam, as of Monday, was not back to doing basketball activity. The swelling in his right hand is still there. So like anything he's doing right now is left hand only. So I would, at this point, be surprised if he plays prior to that game against Washington, which, as I mentioned, is December 12th. That's 10 more days. The Cavs have 3 games between now and then. The fact that they have three games over 10 days is, I think, very, very good for them. But I would be surprised at this point if he's back the rest of this week, just because he hasn't been able to do anything. Maybe he's back by the weekend. I don't know, but it would be something that surprises me. Jared Allen, I would be stunned if he play. I know that it came out like out a week a few days ago. So like technically, could he play Friday or Saturday? Maybe. I think it just makes the most sense to give him until that Washington game so he doesn't come back and then just get him the extra rest. I think that is what makes the most sense. And there were a couple of people that reached out to me on social media and asked me about Max Strus. And Max had surgery on his foot on August 26th. I went back and looked this up. And the timeline from that was 3 to 4 months to resume basketball activities. Now, 3 to 4 months from August 26th is November 26th, the 3-month mark, which, hey, we passed. Yay. The day after Christmas would obviously be the 4-month mark. And I think it is important. Returning to basketball activities and returning to games are not the same. Returning to basketball activities is getting ready to ramp up to games. So for me, I would be very, very surprised. I would be stunned if Max Strus is back this month. I think the door is open in January, and I would be surprised if he's not playing by February. Like at some point in the month of February. I'm not saying February 1st. If he's not playing, I'm stunned. I think the door starts to open up in January. I think maybe the back half of that month to maybe the first half of February is kind of where it makes sense. But Max Strus is not going to be back anytime soon. Like, he's with the team a lot, and I think that that's a good thing. And I think that he's a very good presence in that locker room, but I don't think that he's going to be on the floor anytime soon. I don't think that it would be wise for him to be on the floor anytime soon either. So that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Cavs. Like I said, the Cavs take on the Portland Trail Blazers tonight at Rocket Arena. I will have you covered first thing tomorrow morning, right back here with Locked On Cavs, talking about whatever happens at Rocket Arena on Wednesday night, because it has been an eventful week, and I have no doubt that it's going to continue to be an eventful week with these Cleveland Cavaliers. So make sure you are subscribed wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether that's Apple, maybe it's Spotify, or if it's on YouTube. And if it is on YouTube, also hit the thumbs up button and the notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. I'll be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.